The sun was setting in Kalyanpur, casting long shadows on the streets. Rohan rode his bicycle, a familiar sight in his hometown, caught between the past and the present. Returning after 2 months of detective work, Rohan was filled with a sense of newness and anticipation. Kalyanpur was still traditional, but some things seemed different. A new mobile shop, a modern cafe, and a small, shiny glass-fronted building seemed out of place. A large board caught Rohan's attention. Minimum purchase, 1,000 rupees. A strange condition. Rohan rode his bicycle slowly, his detective instincts kicking in. This shop wasn't just a part of the town. It was a puzzle to solve. The streets were alive. Some people were laughing and talking on smartphones. Others, in worn clothes, carefully counted coins to buy vegetables. Rohan sensed something was off. An elderly shopkeeper spoke to Rohan, noticing his curiosity. The new shop, opened just 2 months ago. Everyone's talking about it. Unusual? Rohan asked. The shopkeeper chuckled. Unusual? This is Kalyanpur. Nobody understands. Outside the shop, customers were lined up. This was what Rohan loved about being a detective. Unraveling mysteries. It wasn't just about the mystery. It was about understanding people. He would find out, Rohan promised himself, a familiar glint in his eyes. This shop wasn't just a store. It was a reflection of complexities, inequalities, and the economic tapestry of modern India. Rohan was determined to understand. As darkness fell, Kalyanpur's department store stood as a beacon of light, marking the start of Rohan's new case. Rohan's investigation would unfold, a story, a mystery. Chapter 2. Discovery of the department store and initial investigation. Rohan stood before Stella Heights department store. A bell chimed as he entered. Stepping inside, he was struck by the contrast. Polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers reflected the light. A young saleswoman in a crisp white uniform greeted him. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" Rohan's detective instincts were at work. He noticed a glass-walled office where a man was looking at documents. "Just browsing," Rohan said casually. He picked up a silk scarf and saw the price tag. 5,000 rupees. The markup was deliberate. He observed the other customers, wealthy individuals dressed in designer clothes. In the electronics section, employees were whispering, giving special treatment to certain customers. At the checkout, he noticed the barcode system and additional price adjustments, which seemed strange. "Excuse me," he said to the cashier. "I was curious about the store's pricing strategy." The cashier's expression turned guarded. "Fairly priced, sir," she replied mechanically. She handed him a business card. Vikram Mehta, proprietor. Outside, Rohan took out his notebook. Vikram Mehta. The name seemed familiar but didn't ring a bell. The investigation was just beginning. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows, Rohan rode his bicycle. "Time to investigate," he said to himself. Stella Heights wasn't just a store, it was a complex machine. Chapter 3. Deepening investigation and revelation of the owner's true identity. Rohan's investigation was in full swing. He interviewed locals and looked into financial transactions. "Unusual records," said Meera Sharma, a local accountant. Wealthy customers were part of an ecosystem of luxury. Rohan spotted peculiar patterns in the financial records. Meera Sharma mentioned Vikram Mehta, a Mumbai investor. Rohan's mind raced. Accountants, legitimate charitable contributions. Even the watchman talked about redistributive economics and Mehta's radical approach. Rohan faced a moral quandary. Chapter 4. Confrontation and Revelations. In the late afternoon, Rohan stood before Stella Heights. Vikram Mehta was waiting. "Detective Rohan," Mehta greeted. "About the investigation," Rohan replied. Mehta leaned back. "Economic disparity," he stated. Rohan listened as Mehta explained his system, using wealthy customers to help the less fortunate. Rohan was torn. "I could report you," Rohan said softly. "You could," Mehta agreed. As the light faded, Rohan grappled with a profound moral dilemma. The investigation had taken an unexpected turn, leaving him with more questions than answers. The chapter ended with Rohan facing a moral crossroads. The story will continue. Rohan's investigation was progressing swiftly. He spoke to the locals in the area and examined the financial transactions. To be honest, "These are quite unusual records," said Meera Sharma, the area's accountant. Her voice had a mix of curiosity and caution. Rohan flipped through the documents, his eyes narrowing. The wealthy customers at Stellar Heights lived a life of luxury. Every transaction, every expense, was meticulously recorded to an astonishing degree. But something felt off. "These kinds of expenses," Rohan pondered. "There's a planned conspiracy here," he said. Meera nodded, pointing to a specific entry. "Look at this. Large sums are shown as payments to service companies, but we don't know where the money came from." Rohan's mind raced. The name of Mumbai investor Vikram Mehta appeared in multiple places. His name was linked to several accounts related to Stellar Heights. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but the full picture was still unclear. Even the watchman spoke very little. Yet, he had a theory. "This is the economics of distributing money," he muttered. His eyes held a mix of amazement and suspicion. "What Mehta is doing is quite different, but it seems to be working." Rohan was conflicted. Was Vikram Mehta a good person? Was he trying to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor? Or was he manipulating everyone for his own selfish gains? Time passed, and the sun began to set. Rohan realized that this investigation wouldn't end soon. The deeper he dug, the more complicated things became. At the center of it all was Vikram Mehta. No one knew his true intentions yet. Rohan made a firm decision in his mind. Whatever the truth was, he would uncover it. Many secrets were buried in the streets of Kalyanpur. Rohan was determined to bring them to light. Even though the night was calm, Rohan's mind was far from peaceful. Though the pieces of the puzzle were scattered, he was determined to put them all together. His room was engulfed in darkness with a faint light. The laptop's light cast eerie shadows on the wall. "Who is this Vikram Mehta?" Rohan muttered to himself. Rohan's fingers danced on the keyboard, breaking into secure databases, searching encrypted files, and finally, he found what he was looking for. A secret document hidden deep within the web. The file was titled Project Janus. A series of documents appeared on the screen, along with photos and videos. Rohan was shocked by what he saw. Vikram Mehta was not just an investor. He was the mastermind behind a complex web of social reform and economic balance. Project Janus was a covert operation using Stellar Heights as a front to bridge the financial gap within Kalyanpur. Mehta's plan was to create a genuine notion of wealth distribution among the people, while ensuring that the wealth was used to build a sustainable future for everyone. The service companies were legitimate fronts, created to channel funds and ensure the true sources of the funds were used for public welfare. Rohan's head started spinning as he pieced it all together. The luxurious lifestyle of those living in Stellar Heights was a facade, funded by the profits from legal and ethical activities. The presence of Mehta's name on multiple accounts was no coincidence. It was a calculated move to ensure transparency. But was that all? A video file caught Rohan's eye. He clicked on it. Blurry footage of a secret meeting played on the screen. Vikram Mehta was there, discussing his plans with other influential people. "If we bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, we create a balanced society," Mehta's voice echoed in the room. Rohan felt a chill down his spine. The truth was more profound than he had imagined. Vikram Mehta was not a manipulator. He was a visionary pulling the strings for a better future. Rohan felt the urge to act immediately. He copied all the files onto a secure drive and headed to Meera Sharma's house. It was time to reveal Mehta's true intentions and bring his noble schemes to light. The future of Kalyanpur depended on it. As Rohan and Meera reviewed the evidence, the room filled with a sense of urgency. The situation had become very serious. "We need to go to the police," Meera said anxiously. Rohan nodded. "Yes, but we need to be very careful. Mehta has people everywhere." By dawn, they had their plan ready. The battle for Kalyanpur's future had begun. Rohan was prepared for whatever came next. The truth would come out, and he wouldn't hesitate to do whatever it took to bring it to light.